Hit it! Spider, spider, here comes Spider, CFL's red zone room. Hit it! Hit it! Spider, spider, here comes Spider, CFL's red zone room. Hit it! Woohoo! Spider's back! Oh, a little bit of Halloween, it's coming up, so may as well have a little bit of fun, eh? Eh? Like they say, no, I don't eat a king yet. But it's some warm in here, and I haven't opened the windows today. Anniversary of Hurricane Juan, after he had Fiona storm through here again, knocking everything down, like that song I wrote, Became a Hurricane. It's on the YouTube under Wild Spider. That's my artist name when I was younger. You want to check it out, it's called Became a Hurricane. I wrote it in the basement. Anyway, I went through town today in Halifax. Let me get up here. Now you see how tall I am, and I'm in my underwear. Last week's underwear. Because it's so plenty warm in here, and I didn't open the window. Anyway, there's a lot of damage. It's not as bad as Hurricane Juan, but it's pretty bad. We had 120 to 130 kilometer winds. Nothing but PEI. I mean, I feel so bad for PEI. It almost destroyed that province and the beaches, the agricultural, and then Port aux Basques, Newfoundland, and Cape Breton Island. It's brutal what's going on in this crazy world we're living in today. Yeah, it's unbelievable. I think they may better sit out there as twins. How you doing? How's everything going? I haven't been back for a while. I haven't got up my new my old set yet, but I'm going to. I'm just trying to get a little closer to the camera because I'm on a wide angle here because I want to. My ass is sticking to the stool. It's so warm in here, but I wanted to do a wide angle, slightly turn this way because I wanted to get everything in. Like over here, it's just the opposite on the monitor, just reverse. But I'm basically just going to ad-lib from the time, going back from the time I left it, maybe a little fast forward a bit, and improvise again, and just like talk about Labor Day classics. And the ratings were pretty good, you know, 800,000 plus, you know. I think there was an average of both games. That's pretty good, but fast forward up to now, and it's the worst. The ratings just sacked. I mean, they're getting clobbered by the NFL. We're going to get into that in a minute or so, down there, or 10 minutes or so, and talk about that and why it's happening. But I was texting back with my son, my amazing son, and I think everybody's son, if you're a good father, you got a good kid, and he's your amazing son too. I wrote another song on YouTube under Wild Spider. The Art of the Spider is my album name. When I was in my 40s and early 40s, and it's called My Amazing Son. It's just an acoustic guitar, bass, and drums. I played every instrument. I mixed everything, produced everything, sang everything, wrote everything, composed everything, with a homemade system worth about, you know, like a few $1,000s or more. I mean, seriously, you know, on a 8 and 16 track. That's all, you know. Something like the Guess Who did when they did their first albums, and even I think American Woman was only on 16 track album with #1 album single in the world. You imagine that? And then seriously, and then they followed up Share the Land, and Reel to Reel, they've remastered everything. I guess I listened to it like since I've been retired a lot. I have everything remastered. I mean, the recording back then, Jack Richardson, who just died, the Guess Who producer, was an amazing producer, but they were talented, man. They had no weak links. You know, Carrie Peterson, you know, right up to Burton Cummings, they had no weak links, and their harmonies were live. Everything was authentic coming off the stage, right up to when the Guess Who did their final reunion tour in 2000, the Metro Center. I had 38 at a party here, 38 that went, my son and his friends and all my friends. It was unbelievable concert, 2.5-hour concert, and they were unbelievable, seriously. Best live concert I've ever heard in my life. talent like you wouldn't believe, and they wrote everything. Every song was shaken all over. They were made international, famous around the world, in the top 20. And number one in Canada. That's the only one they didn't write. But they made it famous. And, you know. Anyway, let's get back to Spider CFL Red Zone Rule video session. How are you doing? I'm glad I'm back. Like I said, this will probably be the last time I do this makeup set. It takes a lot even to set this up, and a lot more to set my main. But I'll be back because I get a closer image and so forth. And anyway, I like it better, my main set. But I'll be back to that. But you know, I wanted to talk about some things. My son and I were texting back and forth and before the Labor Day class and so forth, and like we were talking about different things, like when Edmonton, although Edmonton played a fantastic game and gave Calgary Stampeders fits in the Labor Day class, but there was over 31,000 people there. But you can't sell a league in just a Labor Day game, you know. Like in Winnipeg, they sold out too. They clobbered the Saskatchewan part. They had a flu bug run through. But getting back to the Calgary Stampeder Labor Day Classic with the Edmonton Eskimos, and it was a classic. It was a great one, right down the wire. But they used to bus in Edmonton Eskimos, used to bus, and they never should have changed the name, by the way, never. But I'm glad they got the E back on the helmet. The EE back on the helmet. Look at this. This is contributed to you, Eskimo fans. That reminds me. It's trying to kill me, but it'll get my Spider CFL Red Zone mugs out here. Yeah, put them out, right? I don't know if you can see that one over there. Probably can't. But put it out, right here. Probably can't see it. I don't know. It's hard to tell on the monitor, but anyway, they used to bus thousands of people in and everything. I mean, the Edmonton Eskimos franchise, and it's a combination of numerous things, right? But the Canadian ratio is definitely a big factor. All the flags, CFL stands for Canadian Flag Football League, seriously. It's unbelievable. And my son and I were talking about that, right? But changing the name was a disaster, and it was totally political by Trudeau to try to gain votes, and and Brosie's, you know, he's a Trudeau boy and fan liberal. He definitely is. He was not trying to save the name. He never tried to save the name. That was so political. It was unbelievable. I'm sorry. I tell it the way it is, Mr. Ambrosi and Trudeau. I tell it the way it is. Okay. That's what happened. Look what it did to the Edmonton Eskimo franchise, which was one of the most successful CFL franchises. And you don't do that to a name. There was no need to do that. And the fans turned off. And I'm telling you, also the CFL are misleading on numbers and attendance, saying there's 22,000 people in Edmonton Como Stadium when there's barely 5 or 2 or 3. Seriously, I'm not exaggerating. It's true. Like, unbelievable what they've done to that franchise. And what the CFL has done to the CFL since Mark Cohen's life. Mark Cohen never would allow that to happen. He never would allow that to be politically changed, the Eskimo name. He never would have. And he never would have allowed to go to one-year contracts. He stated that. And look what Ambrosi did. Oh yeah, one-year contract. Because he's in bed with the Canadian Players Association. Because he belonged to the Canadian Players Association. That's why they never really should have hired him. Look what he did to my rule. He stole me a gain on it. It was supposed to be presented to the CFL Inter-Race Rules Committee. You know? Haven't heard a word from him. Like, he's trying to silence it. I'll get into that as well and suppress it. But the thing is, you know, I want to get quite a bit in this session because I'm just going to do one session. So I'm going to try to roll it off my tongue here. So like Randy Ambrosie's he's too political. He's never should be hired. He fought against the CFL when the CFL wanted to get rid of the Canadian ratio. Okay, in court. And they hired him as Canadian Players Association. Now it's just going to be for the Canadian players who are only out for themselves, by the way. They don't care if there's all kinds of weekly Canadian old linemen and Canadian players that they're forced to play to fill the Canadian starter ratio of 7, and half the roster has to be Canadian, guaranteed. And now next year it's going to be 8 guaranteed starters, Canadians. It's getting worse, not better. When when their owners wanted to get rid of the Canadian rates, that's the problem. The owners got to do it. The owners have to do it if they want to survive. They can't allow selfish Canadian players that want to continue the run of the CFL in the ground. And yeah, they want the one-year contracts as much as the American players so they can go to the NFL. They don't care about the CFL. They care about running it. They don't care about running it into the ground, but they care about controlling with their dictating, handcuffing Canadian starter ratio and half the Canadian roster ratio. They don't care if the players aren't good enough, beyond them no business being on the field. They don't care. And they use the Canadian ratio to get a lot more money than the American players. So the imbalance in salaries because of it, and how teams struggle every week with injuries makes it worse. Like starting Canadian starters, and they have to start Canadian stars that aren't good enough. Calgary seem to have some good Canadian receivers now. I give them credit. If they deserve to be there, they should be there. But not because of a Canadian ratio, but there's a lot of other teams that have really weak Canadian O-linemen, terribly weak. Ottawa Red Blacks are, you know what they are? The reason they're so weak, and Edmonton Eskimos too, is because of the Canadian ratio and the one-year contracts. Like 33 to 35 or even more free agents every year. Even the quarterbacks that are being signed to 50% guaranteed now of their salary, which I think is ridiculous in the CFL to do that. They can't afford that. They can go down and try and get out of their 2-year or 3-year and go down to the NFL, try to make the NFL every year. What's the good of signing them? What's the good of a contract? It's unbelievable. Mark Cohen would never allow this. We would never allow this. And getting back to my rule, one thing I wanted to say. The CFL and Randy Ambrosie and the CFL Rules Committee and the CFL Innovation Rules Committee, tremendous amount of ego. That's why they didn't take a serious look at my rule, because they didn't want to be outdone by me, the CFL fan that come up with it, and it wasn't their baby. Because they didn't come up with it. That's how much ego they had. You know why? Because it blows their gimmicky snow job and Randy Ambrosie and Huffnickel's hashback rule out of the water. I mean, kickers are still missing easy field goals because of the narrow hash marks. There's more sideways little 5, 6, 7, 8 yard passes. Have to be a little more because the hash marks are 9 yards, but depending on how far they are to the left or the right. Little tiny passes, even smaller sideways passes for more 2 and outs. When Randy Ambrosie said it was going to virtually eliminate 2 outs, and you're going to see way more bigger passing plays and way more touchdowns scored in the red zone, or scored in the CFL. We'll get to my rule in the red zone in a minute. In the CFL, he said, than ever before, and Randy Ambrosie went on the record and said this many times on radio and said that his hash mark rule, which is a joke, an absolute joke, it's an embarrassment. It's made the CFL worse, the game worse. More 2 and outs. There's no more bigger plays, there's less. There's less touchdowns being scored. And then he said, went out on the limb, he said it's going to make his hashmark, Mickey Mouse, little snow job, gimmicky little hashmark rule was going to make our CFL 3-down game the biggest and best brand of football in the world. And that's over the NFL in the world. Oh yeah, what a joke. Well, it made it the worst brand of football, in the world. Okay, and that's where my CFL Red Zone rule comes in. Okay, that's where my CFL Red Zone rule comes in. SPYDER's CFL Red Zone rule. On my Facebook page, check out SPYDER's CFL Red Zone rule Facebook page. You'll find these brochures, my first and second brochure, and you'll find my very last presentation that I submitted to Mr. Ambrosie was anxious for, that was supposed to be presented at the CFL Innovation Rules Committee before the 2022 season. Never heard a word. Never heard a word. Other than I know that's why they come up with the hash mark and all these other rules that are, like, if you combine them all, my CFL Red Zone rule blows them all, especially the hash mark, out of the water, completely out of the water. And they did that just to divert, just to suppress my CFL red zone rule, to silence it. That's exactly why they did it, to deflect it. That's why they did it. When they should have went in and studied my CFL red zone rule, all the pros and cons, all the features and benefits, all the 10 super features and benefits, by the way, that's on my CFL, Spider CFL Red Zone Rule Facebook page, and they're powerful, by the way. And all the data and numbers, you made an 18% guarantee percentage of average percentage of more touchdowns scored in the red zone amongst 9 CFL teams at a 54.8% average percentage of touchdowns scored at that average, okay? In the red zone, it would increase by 18%. More! 18% more! 50 more touchdowns. Can you imagine that? 200 more points in the red zone. Guarantee you with my CFL red zone rule. And even if it went to what it went last year, to the lowest, I mean 51%. It went from 54.8. Like it was insane of that average. It still would deliver close to 16%. You know, 40 some more touchdowns. Like it's unbelievable what it will do. But at 25%, which is actually doable, and 20% for sure. At 25, it could be 70 touchdowns. Imagine. But you'd be guaranteed 18%. You know, guaranteed. Because, you know, they should average about 54%. Well, I'll look at it this year, but that's what they pretty well average. Anywhere from 50 to 55, but it's in around 54%. So at that percentage, an 18% guarantee of more touchdowns scored in the red zone with my Spider CFL red zone rule. Super exciting Spider CFL red zone rule. Results in 50 more touchdowns for a total of 200 more points, and that's if all converts are successful. Because of the spread between touchdown and the easy chip shot, non-eventful easy chip shot field goal of 4 points, that's how you do the math from up to 200 points. But anyway, I wanted to get into that, and I want to get into more about, you know, talking about like the CFL. Why the CFL? So, like the Ottawa franchise, no one's going to renew their season's tickets. They're going to be as bad as Edmonton, Hamilton, or Montreal. I mean, they're up for sale again. I mean, they're losing so much money. All teams, tens of millions. Calgary, the attendance is way down, way down. Winnipeg, of course, the Grey Cup champions, and they had that winning streak. We were getting really big crowds, over 30,000, selling out even 33,000 when they were trying to go for a 10th straight win. And Montreal beat them. That was interesting. I watched that. I couldn't believe that. That was great. But then they get rid of one of the part owners. You know, that was actually pretty bold, but I guess the CFL didn't like him because he would have probably exposed my CFL red zone rule, and that's what it's going to take. But by the way, can you imagine, like, ignoring the fact that Steve Armitage, who's done 27 Grey Cups, is a sports icon and legend in our country, Canadian sports legend, and he get my CFL red zone rule his stamp approval, and Mr. Vanstone, he's an amazing sports writer for the Leader Post for the Saskatchewan Roughriders, and he wrote that famous, you know, really famous book, the famous Grey Cup, the classic in the Sky Dome. Hamilton Tiger Cats and the Saskatchewan Roughriders, they won the last play of the game with a field goal, and he wrote that book, and he sent me an email after the 2021 season and said that they couldn't have wrote a better script for my CFL Red Zone Spider, that there's so much ammunition now to prove why, and that was in the playoffs too, and in the Grey Cup, in the red zone, that they weren't even going for it on the 2-yard line like they never do, with the 3, the 4, the 5, right up, you know, to the 20, only to the 1-yard line. And he says, more than ever before, I mean, your CFL red zone rule, Mr. Vanstone said, is proven that it deserves to be made part of our CFL 3-down game of football, and with lots of ammo. He said, lots of ammo. Lots of ammunition, he said, Spider. It has earned and deserves to be made part of a CFL 3-down game. And he said they couldn't have written a better script. It was there. And it's there every game, by the way. Every single game, my CFL red zone rule is there in the red zone, and fans are booing, and they're not going for it in third down, kick another easy chip shot field goal, 10, 12 yard, slightly outside the red zone, depending on where the second down stop is made in the red zone. Fans get so turned off by it. With my CFL red zone rule, they'll get turned on. Because with my Spider CFL red zone rule, every time they're in the red zone, with my Spider CFL red zone rule, if the third down needed, because it's an enforcement rule, they have to play exciting 3-down football. If the third down's needed in the red zone, to go for a touchdown. And if they're not forced outside, this is a big selling feature of my CFL red zone rule. If they're not forced outside the red zone and they still maintain possession of the ball in the red zone and don't score a touchdown in third down, and there's not a turnover, okay, and they're not forced outside the red zone, okay, they get my Spider CFL red zone rule kick, my CFL red zone kick from the 35-yard line. You add the 7 from the 42, which is a challenging kick and not an automatic, adds more drama. But my CFL red zone rule adds so much excitement and drama, and the unpredictability of it, and the betting line on it, what could be in the red zone, the money they could pull in. Like this, so go on my CFL red zone rule Facebook page. There's so many benefits and so many features my CFL red zone rule, and Spider CFL red zone rule in a nutshell. And then I go over it in more detail. And the optional provision part is there too. That's an optional provision. It's optional, but I think it would make solidify it more and make it 100% proof, which it is now pretty well. But you know, like if there was a sticky point in the last 10 seconds of the game, or it could be in the last 10 seconds of each half of the game, where a CFL team were to opt to kick a field goal in the last 10 seconds of first, second, or third down, they could do it. To tie or to win the game in the last 10 seconds, or to get 3 points in the last 10 seconds of the half to make it closer, whatever, or in the last 10 seconds tie to win the game, to force it in overtime. But my CFL red zone rule would be applicable in overtime, and because there's no clock. So okay, so the optional provision part wouldn't apply there. But during the game, it could be as an added feature. It actually would make it 100% foolproof, which it's almost now. I like it playing out on its own, but still I think it's a nice add-on, my optional provision part, and it's all there in my presentation, okay? My latest full presentation that I have up my Spider CFL red zone rule Facebook page. So we're 22 minutes and we're going along pretty good, but yeah, flags, I just want to talk about flags in the CFL, okay? Flags are insane. They're insane. Like it almost seems every big turn, and then when Brosey said, oh, with his new rule, that 15-yard, there's going to be more big running plays back, oh yeah, that's a joke. They're kicking it a certain spot in the field so to prevent it, which is wrong, kicking away from good returners, and if they do pick up the ball and start running and everything, it's always a flag, oh, holding or ball, like they call it back, all the big returns, it's a joke, and there's holding calls like almost never, it's a joke. The flags are insane. It's insane, it's ruining the CFL, people are turning up, no one's going to watch that, and no one's going to watch more boring, monotonous, non-eventful, distasteful 2-down football stops in the red zone, okay? And a 3-down game of football. They're not going to watch it. You won't even go for it in the second, the third, the fourth, the 5th yard line. Or, of course, or the 10th, or up to the 20 in the red zone. You won't even go for it. Another easy, boring, easy chip shot field goal. No one wants to see that. That's why my CFL red zone rule is needed. It's definitely needed. And like Mr. Vanstone said, Regina Leader Post, it's proven its case with lots of ammunition. It deserves to be made. It's proven its case, Mr. Ambrosi and the CFL. You're listening? And Farah Lodgy endorsed my CFL red zone rule. And they ignore that too, so 3 Canadian sports icons. He endorsed it too. I got it to him and he was blown away. He said he would actually vote for it. It came down for a vote. Okay? So, and Brosey and his egotistical members on Huffning, on all of them, on the CFL Rules Committee and Innovation Rules Committee, snowing, pushing it aside deliberately because it will be undone by a CFL fan when it makes a complete ass out of their rules, the Hashmark, like jackass rule, like seriously, come on. And that's why they're doing it. That's why they're suppressing it. That's why they don't want it to be exposed, because they make a fool of their rules, which are disgraceful. That Hashmark rule is an absolute joke. It's doing nothing but making our game worse. More 2-and-outs. More 2-and-outs. More sideways little passes, sideways, shorter sideways passes for more 2-and-outs. There's no more big touchdown, big passing play. What a joke. It's done that, and they can't even kick field goals 20 yards away and put it in. Like hitting uprights and everything. It's a joke. And it was our field, size of field was never meant to have little narrow hash marks like the NFL with their little outdoor arena football field, which is a joke, which is 48% smaller than our field. You believe that? But flags, flags, flags. You got to be, and bro, as a commission of the CFL, do we have one? He's got to tell them, because the owners must be telling them, keep your flags in your pocket. Okay? Unless if it's borderline, there's no flags. And fast pass interference calls, unbelievable, making teams lose games because of pass interference calls that aren't pass interference calls. Man, I'm on a roll, but I'm really pissed off. CFL, get your act together. Keep your flags in your pocket. Right? Get rid of the one-year contracts and all the free agency, which is insane. And all the boring, non-eventful, distasteful two-down football stops in the red zone. That can be eliminated, completely eliminated. My CFL red zone rule that can guarantee 18% more touchdowns in the red zone for 50 more touchdowns amongst 9 CFL teams. Can you imagine? That's what people want to see. They want to see touchdowns in the red zone, not more boring, non-eventful, distasteful two-down football stops resulting in more boring, non-eventful, distasteful, easy chip shot field goals. I guess they're all the same. Non-eventful. They are distasteful. Okay, predictable. Okay, I'm on a roll. Okay, my mind's not. I'm trying hard. But Spider, here comes Spider. CFL Red Zone roll. I'll be back. Take care. Take care of yourself. And I try to get everything in, but I'm on a roll, and I'm really pissed off. But I should be. Spider, here comes Spider. CFL Red Zone roll. Take care.